Greetings. Introducing Voices of Festival, brand new podcast series from the International African Arts Festival, created to keep you connected as we count down to our 55th year of culture, creativity, and community. Each week, hear directly from the artists, dancers, musicians, vendors, and community members who make this festival an unforgettable experience. Tune in every Thursday at 8 p.m. on YouTube for Voices of Festival. Celebrate the culture, feel the rhythm, be part of the journey. Well. Greetings. Alafia, Barigani, Salam Alaikum. We are so glad to have you. We've got an exciting show tonight. I'm just ready to jump right in it. Sahkeena, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. So this week, based on our rhythm, we're addressing what we call hot topics. And so tonight, the hot topic that we're looking at is twofold, actually. One is the issue of prostate cancer. And the second is continuing our tribute to Mama Assata Shakur. I am so psyched about our guest for this evening. Honored, actually. We're honored to have him. He is none other than Professor James Small. And I'm going to read a small bit of his bio, y'all, because if you saw the whole thing, it would take the whole show to do it. So, Professor James Small is a scholar, activist, and priest in the Yoruba religion. He is known for his extensive work in African and African-American history and culture. He has taught Africana studies at the City University of New York and has served as the chief historical consultant for the MGM series, Godfather of Harlem. He is the CEO of Sanaa Lodge Enterprises and a leader within the Organization of Afro-American Unity. He was the former imam of the Muslim Mosque Incorporated and was also principal bodyguard for Ella Collins, Malcolm's sister. Welcome, Professor Smalls.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to just be here and have a conversation.
Yes. Well, we're glad to have you on Voices of Festival. Let me start because this first portion, you and I are going to talk a bit about this. But, you know, I don't know if you remember, we talked about doing this, maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah, we did. And we kept trying to get to it.
And so here it is, you know, because I think it's extremely important. You are a political activist as well as a historian. But I want to look at this issue of prostate cancer among African-American men as a political item. You know, it has some impact. And I want you to talk about that. But before that, your journey with it. Give us some background about your experience with the prostate cancer.
Right. It took 35 years out of my life.
Really?
It started early, but I woke up one day and I was not well. I'd come back from an initiation in Trinidad and I went to the bathroom. I had dengue fever. And all of a sudden, this explosion of blood everywhere. I'm talking a literal explosion all over. And I almost lost my mind. By the time my wife, who's a physician, I call her, tell her she's at work. I get to the hospital. And then that's when I had never even heard the word prostate before. It was not in my vocabulary. And after they drained me out and got me cleaned up and washed my bladder out, I was told I had a prostate that was the size of a grapefruit.
Wow.
I mean, it's supposed to be the size of a walnut, right? I'm carrying this thing I'm just discovering is in my body that was the size of a grapefruit. And so I went on almost a 30-year journey of hemorrhaging almost every day. I went through 5, 6 different urologists trying to find some solution, trying to find out what can we do. And 30 years ago, they didn't know much about the prostate because it wasn't making money for the medical industry because men were dying so much younger. So by the time prostate became a problem, we were gone. But now we're living almost 10 years longer in the past 30, 35 years. And so we're experiencing this prostate issue. But for me, I went through trying to find different treatments. In the beginning, everything was about surgery, to remove it or to trim it. And I kept saying no to those. Once I'm actually on a gurney going down the hall, and I stopped them and jumped off just before the anesthesiologist. I said, no, I can't do this. They thought I'd lost my mind, but I said, no, I don't know enough. And I went from urologist to urologist, hospital to hospital, reading everything I could, all the research I could. And there wasn't a lot in the beginning, but over the years that built up. And then we discovered, and I wrote some things down on my board that I want to just give people a definition, and then they can understand better what I'm talking about. And, like the prostate, for the brothers who don't know, like me, who didn't even know such thing exists, it's a small walnut-shaped gland, and it's located like right below your bladder and just in front of your rectum. And actually, your urethra, that your urine comes through, flows right through the middle of it. It has 4 chambers. It's a little squishy, cushy little thing. You wouldn't think it would cause all this harm once you learn what it is. And so I tell all the brothers now, as early as you can, in your 40s, start asking for a PSA test from your doctor. That's a prostate serum antigen, so that they can know whether something is going on abnormal. Normally, your PSA should be 1, if not 0. But by the time I discovered mine, I was 25.
Hello.
And everybody was going crazy, but being ignorant, I didn't understand why everybody was so upset. I go like a 25, okay?
Well, let me ask you this, though, because you said 25. I've talked to some people who are nearly up to 40.
I've been there.
Sahkeena, do you know what your dad's was? His PSA count?
Oh, I do not. I do not.
Okay.
I know that he had the disease for at least 20 years before it went to stage 4. And he managed it at stage 4 for about 4 or 5 years. He managed at stage 4.
Most prostate cancer moves very slowly. There are some aggressive forms, but most of them are very slow. And so doctors tend not to address it early, even when you discover it early, because it's a slow moving. Now, I've been aware that I have prostate cancer for 15 years, right? But I have a very slow moving. And because mine was so large, to do a biopsy, you couldn't just do 1 snippet. They had to do 10, 11, 15 snippets to be sure they were covering everything. And
the
then
entire area.
Yeah.
Now, Professor, when I tell people about the prostate cancer, when I talk to men, I try to be straight up with them. It is not a painful thing.
No,
you really don't know
it's there.
But when they do that biopsy, brother,
I've had a few.
It's no joke.
Yes.
Now, but let me ask you, explain to them what the biopsy is all about.
Well, the biopsy is when they go through your rectum because the prostate presses up against the wall of the rectum, and they go into the prostate and snip a small piece of tissue with a special kind of needle so that they can examine that tissue for any cancerous cells. And it's painful. And it's uncomfortable. But it's one of the ways. They've got now more high-tech stuff. The last I had was an MRI, a special sort of MRI that can detect any lesions in the prostate. Even after that, you still will maybe have to have an intrusive kind of tissue extraction to see how far this has gone. But what we need to look for as men is some of the things that will trigger, because this thing moves so slow and it's so quiet. And first, if you do develop cancer, before you know it, it's in your bones, then your liver, then your lung. And usually that's when people become aware, when they start having issues with the bones and pains in the lower back or pains in the hip. And then they realize this is coming from that source. So when we start having a problem urinating, where you go to urinate and you can only partially empty your bladder and you're aware of that, or you find yourself waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night going to the bathroom and you're only urinating a small amount of time. I remember getting myself a bottle that I used to have the peanuts in, and then I began to measure how much I would, what was my release at any given time. I did that for years, so I could measure how to time myself, measure how much fluid to drink close to bedtime or no fluid at all. But you should, when you start having these symptoms, go to your doctor. Okay.
Now,
I have a question. What stage are you at now, and how are you managing?
Well, I didn't do the last tests. I was just being tough. So they don't know what stage. The last test I had last year, they found 10 lesions. Only one was larger than the others. And so they wanted me to go to an extreme. Remember, I'm 80 years old now. My physician, a good brother who I was with for 12 years, felt that by the time this became an issue with me, I'll be gone, because I have a very slow developing, but most of it can be very aggressive. I'm blessed that I have not had that aggressive kind of development. But they wanted to do this special MRI. And then it's another procedure. It's too complicated, the name, to go in to see whether those lesions are cancerous or not. So I had to make a decision for myself. At this age, if they open those lesions, which are now contained, will they spread the cancer cells and cause a speed up of the process? Or do I stay with the status quo? For the time being, I've chosen to stay with the status quo. But getting to this point, getting through 30 years of blood in my urine, 30 years of having to wear pads and the pens, and I've spoken, I've given lectures with catheters strapped to my legs, you understand? Wearing my African robe, so nobody knew, this is between me and a few friends who I might have been with. I said, listen, if I got to leave this stage, you step in and continue to lecture like Professor Griff and some others who knew about it during the years. And I learned to live with it because there wasn't a lot known in the early days. Right now, there's a lot known about prostate cancer. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of good treatments coming up. The medication, there's all kind of herbs and other things in the pipeline that can be helpful in many ways. But the diet, like my wife was telling me when I told her about the show, she said, be sure and mention to Adeyemi, diet is significant and important. That we have to start dealing with good, healthy, vegetarian-based diet early in life. That we have to take out processed food wherever and however and as much as we can early in our life. We've got to be careful of the soda pop, soft drinks, and all of that stuff. Pull that out of your diet early in life. And we might begin to avoid a lot of this. Yeah. But the key thing is the symptoms when you start getting it. The urinary burning in the urinary, blood in the urine, multiple needs to go to the bathroom at nights, not being able to empty your bladder when you do go to the bathrooms, pain in your hip, lower back, kidney areas, upper leg areas. All of those symptoms should send you running to your doctor.
Now, let me ask you something, though. When you share your journey with brothers, what kinds of reactions are you getting in terms of reluctance?
Right. The thing that I found at first, I thought it was just me because nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
So when I really started opening it up, and nearly 7 out of 10 of the brothers that I talked to, are having some sort of issue. And these are brothers from 40 to 70 years old, but they haven't been saying anything about it because we attach so much of this to having sex or incontinence that will develop, or your ability to get an erection. And we think that this is about you're not being able to have sex anymore. And so you're afraid to go to the doctor because you're afraid that part is going to be eliminated. And that's not true at all. But if you don't begin to start addressing it, you will not be able to have sex, and you will not be able to have anything, you know? And so addressing it as early as possible when any of these symptoms start coming up so that you can get a sense of what's going on with your body. And then study, learn your body, learn about the prostate, learn about your urinary system, learn about your bladder. How should you be functioning? So if you're functioning differently than what is normal, you will know it immediately. And it doesn't take a lot to do this study now with all of the technology. You can Google a lot of this stuff.
Right. Sahkeena, let me ask you something. I don't know whether you were living with Baba Stan at the time that the cancer took hold, but as a family member, were you aware of anything? Did you see some things that kind of made you say, what is something going on here?
Oh, I was very much aware. I actually was living with him for a minute, and then when things started getting really serious, I actually moved out so that I could come back in and function as caretaker. One of the things I did notice is he was highly addicted to sugar.
Yowza.
And so we learned that cancer cells really feed on sugar. So that was one of the main things to work on with him, is to really pull sugar totally out of the diet. And for somebody who is addicted to sugar, that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So I would say, for any form of advice to offer is to work on eliminating sugar. And actually, I will want to segue because Beware is sending some messages. We actually have someone in the queue, Baba Akamal, who is a naturopathic doctor and medicine man, to speak to the issue of prostate cancer.
Okay, before we go to Akamal, I just want to go back to this issue, though. The politics of prostate cancer. Are brothers reluctant to think that they can get it? Or there's like this inherent fear of white man's medicine, or what?
All of that's there. All of that's there. And just like me, the ignorance I had about the prostate starting out, even though there's so much more information now, most brothers I meet are totally ignorant. They can't even tell you where the prostate is located, And so when they get these issues, they're usually attributed initially to different things. They're wanting to urinate more frequently, getting up in the middle of the night. It usually takes years before people accept, because everybody's afraid of that word cancer.
Hello. And
so they don't want to go to the doctor because they think they're going to meet that word, and that word put in such fear. And then there's a pharmaceutical industry who have been literally poisoning the population in America. So there's a fear of going into a situation where the medication they're going to give you is worse than the disease you're trying to fight off.
That is true.
That is part of the conversation.
Right. Listen, we're going to take a brief break here. Each week, we take folks back to the festival. So for those who missed it, they can get a glimpse of what they missed. And for those who were there, they can reconnect with it. So we're going to go back to Festival 54 for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back with Professor James Small.
Where is she? Easy now. I'm afraid of God. With my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders. Have a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head. Just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, when I can for my people. Where the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night. That's when I'm gonna stand up. Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling? Calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
Phantom. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, gonna start moving.
Yes. Pardon me. Festival 54, absolutely wonderful. A different take on African dance, taking us back to it could have been down in South Carolina.
Mhm.
With those
Definitely.
dancing. I want to welcome a good brother, a healer, photographer. I'm not sure what else he does, a little bit of everything, but he is none other than Dr. Akamal Muwwakil.
Good evening.
Welcome to Voices of Festival. When we talked about doing this show, the folks said we should have gotten you, and so I guess we're going to do that. My intent was to try and keep the discussion in the political realm of prostate cancer, but we've gotten deep into, and because we have more time for this show, we've gotten deep into the intricacies of prostate cancer. But we're looking at it from a couple of different perspectives. The journey that Professor James Small has had, I shared a little bit of mine, but then also Sahkeena, whose dad, Brother Stan Kinard, had cancer for a while. But the reason that she's sharing is because she was on the other end of it as a family member watching this journey take place. And I know what that's like. But Akmal, where we left off is perfect timing for you because Professor James Small was talking about the diet. And Sahkeena mentioned that her dad, he was a sugar fiend. And I'm raising my hand because there's some of I confess.
All of us, yeah.
I confess.
Gotta take that sugar out. Mhm.
Yeah. But Akmal, be gentle with us. Hey, listen, Professor Small, you think the biopsy is rough. Wait till you see Akmal.
How you doing, Professor? How are y'all doing?
I'm good. Good to see you and to hear you.
So,
Good.
What's the first thing that you tell a brother coming in there to see you who's having all of these issues with incontinence, waking up 3-4 times a night, etc.? What are you going to tell him?
Well, the first thing I want to know is how much water is he intaking? Because that would impact him going to the bathroom all night long. The second piece, because I come through Chinese medicine, the second piece I would begin to get into is his family, and would get into the factor of how many children did his grandparents have and how many children are in his family, because that has a lot to do with our reproductive system. in Chinese medicine, which has to do with your kidneys. So those would kind of be some of the questions I would ask. My sheet is 11 pages long, but the other piece I would ask the brother is about his elbow. You know your elbow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that elbow. And so I would ask him about, what was his intake of food? Because of the fact that despite what science says, prostate issues and prostate cancer is about malnutrition. That's why Baba Stan, Ibaye, like sugar. We like sugar because of the fact that we are not getting nutrients from the foods that we're eating. And so because of that, what the sugar does is the sugar starts to kill the B vitamins, and it starts to misplace the ability of the zinc and the copper to function so that the prostate can be healthy. So I would get into the eating habits. That's like, you've had prostate cancer. There are certain things you should eat, and there's certain things you shouldn't eat.
Well, let's start with what you shouldn't eat. Besides
So
the sugar.
first thing, my dear sister said it so perfectly. Stay away from sugar. Now, when I say stay away from sugar, I ain't talking about your woman, because she could be sugar to you. Okay? I'm talking about them granules that are called sugar, that especially if it's that white domino type sugar. Okay? Stay away from that because of the fact that that's going to start to kill you. The second thing I would say is don't eat out. Okay? Stop eating out. Why? Couple of reasons. One is you don't know what's in the food. Okay? The other piece of that is the fact that you don't know the energy that the waiter or waitress or the cook is putting into that food. That you when you start talking about things like prostate or health in general, you're talking about energy. Okay? And so you want to make sure that the energy that you're getting for your body is healthy.
Well, let me jump in here for a hot minute, though, because it triggered something for me. We were talking about how young Professor James Small looked. And if you don't mind me, he's 80. My mother died a day shy of 95. But you know what? She rarely ate out.
Yeah.
She rarely, now this is a Jamaican woman. So, leftovers might last 5 days. But it's interesting you said that, though. She rarely ate out.
Yeah. And so
I wondered that could have been a contributing factor for her making it a day shy of 95.
No question. The other piece that we have to look at, because I just turned 76. And the other piece that we have to look at is the fact that the quality of the food that we ate growing up infused our immune system for strength. When we started to move away from eating foods that gave us that strength, or started eating foods that was adulterated, canned foods, bottled foods, full of sugar, full of salt, artificial flavorings, artificial this, what that did was that took away our health. And as older men in a younger body, okay, what happens is that the body and the age are not catching up. Okay, so it's not catching up because of the fact of the elbow. We have to deal with the fact of that. Let me stop. Let me ask this question.